Did you know some of the best ground beef recipes have faded into history? From Depression-era meals to immigrant-inspired classics, these dishes tell stories of resilience and creativity. Join us as we rediscover 25 forgotten ground beef recipes that deserve a comeback. Have you ever tried chili with cinnamon and chocolate? Cincinnati-style chili mac is a bold twist on a classic, blending Mediterranean spices with American comfort food in a way that surprises and delights. Greek immigrants in Ohio created this dish by simmering ground beef in a sauce enriched with cinnamon, chocolate, and red wine vinegar, adding layers of unexpected depth. Instead of being eaten alone, this spiced beef was ladled over spaghetti and topped with shredded cheddar cheese, onions, and beans. The result? A five-way dish that became legendary across Cincinnati's diners. Every chili parlor had its own closely guarded spice blend, ensuring that no two versions were exactly alike. The key to its addictive taste was the slow simmering, allowing the bold flavors to meld together perfectly. While some might question the combination of spaghetti and chili, one taste quickly converts skeptics. Today, this dish can be easily adapted with lean beef, whole wheat pasta, or even plant-based alternatives, making it a versatile, protein-packed comfort meal with a fascinating history. During the Great Depression, home cooks found ways to recreate fancy meals with budget-friendly ingredients. Meatloaf Wellington was a creative take on the expensive beef Wellington, using seasoned ground beef instead of filet mignon and a homemade dough instead of puff pastry. The secret was in the dough, made from flour, water, and whatever fat was available, rolled thin and carefully folded to create layers. This dish became a Sunday dinner centerpiece, with families scoring designs into the pastry for a decorative touch. The slow baking process allowed the juices to stay locked in, ensuring every bite was tender and flavorful. Some variations included mushrooms or onions mixed into the beef, giving it a more complex taste. Despite its humble origins, Depression-era meatloaf Wellington proved that presentation could elevate even the simplest ingredients. Today, this dish can be revived with store-bought pastry and premium ground beef, offering a nostalgic yet refined take on a classic. Born in the 1930s, Hobo dinner packets were a Depression-era staple, perfect for cooking over campfires or in home ovens. They featured seasoned ground beef patties wrapped in foil with sliced potatoes, carrots, and onions. These simple ingredients, combined with the slow cooking method, made the beef tender and flavorful. A pat of butter and a sprinkle of dried thyme elevated the taste, creating a rich, aromatic dish. Originally popular among railway workers and transient laborers, this meal eventually became a backyard barbecue favorite. The magic of these packets was in their self-contained cooking, each bite infused with the natural juices of the vegetables. Today, Hobo dinner packets can be easily modernized with fresh herbs, cheese, or even a drizzle of Worcestershire sauce for extra depth. They're a reminder of how simple, humble ingredients can create something truly special, proving that necessity often leads to the most delicious discoveries. While Hobo dinner packets brought families together around the fire, the ground beef radio dinner turned mealtime into a perfectly timed event. In the 1930s and 40s, families gathered around their radios for evening entertainment, timing dinner preparation with their favorite shows. The ground beef radio dinner was a simple one-pan meal designed to be ready by the climax of a radio program. It started with ground beef browned in a skillet, followed by onions, potatoes, and a splash of tomato sauce. The dish simmered slowly while families listened to comedies, mysteries, and dramas, filling the house with its rich aroma. Timing was crucial. Vegetables were added after the first commercial break, and by the time the hero solved the mystery, dinner was ready. This meal was both practical and comforting, requiring little effort but delivering big flavors. Today, this nostalgic dish can be modernized with fresh herbs, cheese, or even a dash of Worcestershire sauce. Whether enjoyed in front of the TV or as a quick weeknight meal, it brings back the warmth of simpler times. Born in the American Southwest, beef and cornmeal tamale pie blended Mexican traditions with Depression-era ingenuity. The dish featured seasoned ground beef cooked with onions, chilies, and tomatoes, layered beneath a rich cornmeal crust. Unlike today's quick-mix versions, the original required toasting cornmeal in a dry skillet, intensifying its nutty flavor. Some versions incorporated garden vegetables like bell peppers and zucchini, stretching the beef further to feed large families. But did you know that the secret to its rich, comforting texture was the slow baking process? It allowed the juices from the beef to meld with the cornmeal topping, creating a hearty, satisfying meal. Tamale pie was a favorite at church suppers and potlucks, offering an easy, shareable way to enjoy bold southwestern flavors. Modern adaptations might include cheese, black beans, or even jalapenos for extra spice. Reviving this dish today is a great way to experience the resourcefulness of past generations while enjoying a delicious, one-pan meal packed with history and flavor. During harvest season, farm families needed meals that could feed a crowd and be prepared in advance. Harvest time. Hot dish was a layered casserole featuring ground beef, potatoes, corn, green beans, and tomatoes, all fresh from the fields. The key ingredient was a layer of creamed corn in the middle, which melted into the dish, creating a rich, comforting texture. In Minnesota, wild rice was sometimes added for an extra layer of heartiness, while in Iowa, sweet corn took center stage. The beauty of this dish was its adaptability. Farmers used whatever produce was in abundance. It was baked low and slow in farmhouse ovens while workers tended the fields, ensuring a hot meal was ready when they returned. Today, this dish remains a symbol of rural ingenuity, easily modernized with fresh herbs, cheese, or lean meats. It's a delicious reminder of the time when food was directly tied to the land, nourishing both body and spirit. While farm families relied on their own harvests for hearty meals, small neighborhood shops were introducing bold new flavors. Up next, discover how corner store curry beef blended immigrant traditions with American comfort food in a way that changed home cooking forever. Small, family-run corner stores were more than just places to buy groceries. They were community hubs where cultures blended. Store owners from India and Pakistan introduced their neighbors to rich, aromatic spices, leading to the creation of corner store curry beef. Ground beef was simmered with onions, garlic, cumin, coriander, and turmeric, creating a deeply flavorful dish that was spooned over rice or served with bread. Each store had its own unique spice blend, often measured out into paper bags with handwritten instructions for customers eager to recreate the dish at home. Families adapted the recipe using ingredients they had on hand, sometimes adding tomatoes or potatoes to stretch the meal further. This dish represented more than just sustenance. It was a shared experience, connecting immigrant shopkeepers with their American customers. Today, corner store curry beef can be revived with fresh spices and lean meats, preserving the legacy of cultural exchange through food. Deep in America's mining towns, workers needed a meal that was sturdy, portable, and filling. Enter mining town meat pockets, handheld pastries stuffed with seasoned ground beef, onions, and sometimes root vegetables like turnips or potatoes. The key to their success was the dough, made with rye flour to create a durable crust that could survive a long shift underground. These meat pockets varied by ethnic background. Polish miners added sauerkraut, Italians mixed in peppers and oregano, and Welsh miners used leeks. The signature feature was the thick, crimped edge, which miners held while eating, keeping their soot-covered hands off the rest of the meal. Leftovers were often reheated on the engine of mining equipment, making them one of the earliest examples of a grab-and-go meal. Today, they can be easily adapted using modern pastry dough and a variety of fillings, offering a delicious way to honor the resilience of those who built America from below ground. Designed to fuel America's growing workforce, the factory worker's beef roll was a portable and filling meal. A sturdy, egg-enriched dough was rolled out, filled with seasoned ground beef, rice, and vegetables, then baked until golden brown. The slow baking process created a crust that kept the roll fresh for hours, making it perfect for long shifts. Factory workers could slice off portions throughout the day, ensuring they stayed energized. Some variations included cheese or pickles hidden inside, offering a small surprise in each bite. These rolls were often made in bulk on Sundays and packed for the week ahead. Though factory lunches have changed, this dish can still be enjoyed as a convenient, homemade alternative to fast food. By using whole wheat dough and fresh ingredients, the factory worker's beef roll can be revived as a nutritious and nostalgic grab-and-go meal, honoring the resilience of America's industrial workers. Before fast food, railway stations provided travelers with quick, satisfying meals. Railway station beef turnovers were flaky, hand-held pastries filled with seasoned ground beef, diced potatoes, and onions. The secret to their irresistible texture was in the dough, folded with butter 13 times to create layers that shattered like glass with each bite. Cooks at railway kitchens timed their baking perfectly so that fresh turnovers were ready as trains pulled in. Each station had its own unique seasoning. Some used paprika, while others added a pinch of sage. These turnovers kept passengers full during long journeys and were often wrapped in wax paper for easy on-the-go eating. As rail travel declined, so did this delicious tradition. Today, they can be revived using store-bought puff pastry or homemade dough, offering a nostalgic and portable way to enjoy a hearty meal, just as weary travelers did during the golden age of train travel. As railway turnovers fueled travelers on the go, another dish transformed humble leftovers into a light, airy delight. Up next, the forgotten magic of Sunday night hash souffle. After a big Sunday roast, families needed a way to use up leftovers. Enter the Sunday night hash souffle. Unlike regular hash, this dish transformed simple ground beef and potatoes into something light and airy. But who would have thought that a humble leftover dish could take on such an elegant twist? The secret? Whipped egg whites folded into the meat and vegetable mixture, creating a souffle-like texture. French-trained chefs may have inspired this technique, but home cooks gave it a practical American twist. Some versions included shredded cheese or a dash of nutmeg, adding unexpected depth to the flavor. When the souffle emerged from the oven, golden and puffed, it turned leftovers into an elegant meal. It became a favorite among farm families and city dwellers alike, proving that frugality could be just as delicious as indulgence. Today, this dish can be recreated using modern kitchen tools, making it a great way to reduce food waste while adding a touch of nostalgia to your dinner table. On the treacherous journey westward, pioneers needed meals that were nutritious, portable, and easy to cook over an open fire. Pioneer Trail Mix meatballs met all three requirements, combining ground beef with dried fruits like raisins, apples, or cranberries. These weren't just for sweetness. Dried fruit helped keep the meat moist during long hours of cooking. Crushed dried corn was sometimes used as a coating, creating a protective crust that preserved the meat for days. The meatballs were often simmered in a broth made from whatever herbs and spices were on hand, absorbing rich flavors. This dish was a lifeline for families enduring the hardships of westward expansion. Modern variations might swap dried fruit for caramelized onions or add a smoky barbecue glaze, but the essence of the dish remains the same. These meatballs are a flavorful reminder of the ingenuity and survival skills of early American settlers. During World War II, food rationing meant home cooks had to get creative. The Victory Garden beef pie was a perfect example, stretching a small amount of ground beef with fresh vegetables grown in backyard gardens. Carrots, peas, and potatoes were mixed into the beef, creating a nutrient-rich filling. Instead of a traditional flour-based crust, thrifty cooks mixed mashed turnips or parsnips with flour, reducing their reliance on rationed ingredients. Some neighborhoods coordinated their gardening efforts, sharing produce to maximize variety in their meals. This dish wasn't just about stretching food, it symbolized community resilience. It allowed families to contribute to the war effort while still enjoying a comforting, home-cooked meal. Today, this pie can be easily revived with fresh seasonal produce and whole-grain pastry for a modern twist on a wartime classic. As Victory Garden beef pie showcased wartime resilience, another dish from across the Atlantic was winning over American families. Swedish immigrants brought their culinary traditions to America, including this hearty layered casserole. Thinly sliced potatoes were arranged in a dish, each layer brushed with a velvety white sauce infused with nutmeg and white pepper. Ground beef, seasoned and browned, was layered between the potatoes, ensuring that each bite had a rich, meaty depth. As it baked, the juices from the beef seeped into the potatoes, creating a luxurious, tender dish. Traditionally made for holidays and large gatherings, this dish became a family favorite across Swedish-American communities, particularly in Minnesota. The secret to its irresistible flavor was in the careful layering, each potato slice overlapping just enough to create a visually striking and evenly cooked dish. Though modern versions might include cheese or cream of mushroom soup, the original relied on simplicity and technique. Reviving this dish today is a great way to connect with immigrant culinary heritage while enjoying a comforting, budget-friendly meal. When food was scarce, home cooks had to make every pound of meat count. Depression stretcher patties were a genius solution, ground beef was mixed with cooked rice, soaking up the juices and making the patties more flavorful and tender. Some families added grated carrots, onions, or even oats to stretch the meat further. A splash of milk ensured they stayed moist, while a quick sear on a hot griddle created a deliciously crispy edge. These patties were served with simple gravy or sandwiched between slices of bread for an affordable, filling meal. The technique was so effective that some families continued making them long after the Depression ended. Today, they can be upgraded with quinoa or brown rice for a healthier take while still honoring the ingenuity of past generations. With their crispy texture and juicy center, Depression stretcher patties prove that necessity often leads to culinary brilliance. In classic American diners, short-order cooks had a signature dish, the lunch counter beef scramble. This quick and flavorful meal featured ground beef cooked on a sizzling griddle, constantly chopped and stirred to create crispy golden bits. The secret was in the cooking technique, never letting the beef sit still, ensuring every piece developed a delicious sear. Customers could customize their scramble with add-ins like onions, peppers, cheese, or even a splash of tomato sauce. Paint it red. Served with toast or stuffed into sandwiches, this dish was a favorite among factory workers and travelers needing a quick, satisfying meal. Each diner had its own spice blend, often stored in old coffee cans for easy access. Though diner culture has faded in many areas, the lunch counter beef scramble can still be recreated at home. Using a hot cast iron skillet and fresh ingredients, it's a simple yet delicious way to bring back the golden era of American roadside diners. If you think we've covered it all, think again. Stay tuned. Church potlucks were legendary for their hearty casseroles, and church supper beef squares were among the most popular. These were carefully layered squares of seasoned ground beef, cheese, and a rich tomato-based sauce baked in giant pans to feed large crowds. But have you ever wondered how every serving came out perfectly even? The trick was in the even cutting. Cooks used toothpicks to create a perfect grid, ensuring everyone got the same portion. Some cooks added a dash of celery salt or extra oregano to personalize their version. The aroma of these casseroles baking would drift into the sanctuary, signaling that the service was nearly over and a delicious meal awaited. Church ladies passed down their recipes within congregations, preserving generations of culinary tradition. Today, these squares can be modernized with fresh herbs, leaner beef, or even plant-based alternatives while still capturing the comforting essence of their original form. They remain a perfect dish for potlucks, family gatherings, and nostalgic Sunday meals. Boarding houses were bustling centers of communal life, and the cooks who ran them knew how to stretch ingredients. The boarding house special was a layered dish of ground beef, potatoes, and gravy, simple yet deeply satisfying. A key secret was adding a splash of leftover morning coffee to the beef mixture, enhancing its richness. Each cook had a unique spice blend, carefully guarded and passed down like a family heirloom. The meal was built to be filling, ensuring that every resident, from traveling salesmen to factory workers, left the table satisfied. Leftovers were often repurposed the next day, ensuring nothing went to waste. While boarding houses have mostly disappeared, this dish remains a comforting and budget-friendly way to bring people together. Reviving it today with quality ingredients and fresh herbs makes for a nostalgic meal that proves simple food can still be packed with flavor. Before processed cafeteria food, school lunches were made from scratch, with recipes designed to nourish growing kids. One of the most beloved was the beef and beans school lunch. A simple yet hearty dish featuring ground beef simmered with navy beans and a splash of pickle juice for added tang. Cooked in massive pots, it was served with cornbread or biscuits, making for a well-balanced meal. Cafeteria cooks had their own timing tricks, knowing exactly when to add the final seasonings so the beans held their shape while absorbing the rich flavors of the beef. The recipe was measured in coffee cans and pickle jars, rather than cups and teaspoons, a testament to the experience of the women who perfected it. Today, this dish can be brought back with healthier swaps like lean beef and fresh beans, offering a protein-rich, comforting meal that harkens back to the days of homemade school lunches. In one-room schoolhouses scattered across the American plains, teachers often relied on their students' families to help provide meals. The Prairie school teacher's casserole was a community effort. Each family contributed a bit of ground beef, potatoes, or vegetables to make a shared dish. Everything was cooked together in a single pot or baking dish, creating a simple yet nourishing meal. In the fall, fresh corn and tomatoes were common ingredients, while winter versions included root vegetables stored in cellars. A crunchy topping made from cornmeal and crushed crackers added texture, making the dish both practical and delicious. Teachers, often living miles from home, learned cooking skills from their students' mothers, passing down recipes that became part of local tradition. Though schoolhouses have evolved, this dish remains a tribute to the era of community-supported education. It can be revived today with fresh, seasonal ingredients, celebrating the simple but powerful impact of shared meals. In the crowded boarding houses of America's industrial boom, meals had to be filling, affordable, and easy to serve. The beef and biscuit boarding house stack was a marvel of layering. Thin biscuits alternated with seasoned ground beef, all draped in a rich gravy. The secret to its deep, savory flavor was a splash of coffee in the beef mixture, a trick boarding house cooks learned to enhance richness. Each layer of biscuits soaked up the flavors, creating a melt-in-your-mouth texture. Some cooks stacked as high as 6 or 7 layers, timing their preparation so dinner was served piping hot, just as workers returned home. Boarding houses became famous for their unique variations, some incorporating cheese or vegetables depending on what was available. Though boarding houses have largely disappeared, this dish lives on as a delicious, budget-friendly comfort food. Today, it can be recreated with buttermilk biscuits and high-quality beef, offering a taste of communal dining history. As school teachers relied on their communities for a warm meal, boarding house cooks were mastering the art of stacking flavors. Up next, the hearty and layered beef and biscuit boarding house stack. Did you know that small-town general stores once served more than just groceries? They also brought communities together over home-cooked meals. Before supermarkets, general stores were the lifeblood of small-town America, and many had backrooms where families gathered for Saturday night dinners. General store beef supper was a simple but flavorful dish. Ground beef mixed with rice and pickled vegetables, simmered slowly until the flavors melded. The pickled vegetables, often chopped fine and stirred in, added a unique tang that set this dish apart. Store owners, knowing their customers' tastes, sometimes prepared special spice blends, measured in old coffee cans, for their regulars. The mixture was left to cook near the store's potbelly stove, filling the room with a warm, inviting aroma. As the store closed for the night, families gathered to share the meal, strengthening bonds within the community. Today, this dish can be modernized with fresh herbs and whole-grain rice, while still capturing the rich, comforting essence of a time when food and fellowship went hand in hand. Farmhands worked long, grueling hours, requiring meals that were both hearty and energizing. Farmhand's favorite was a skillet dish of ground beef, mixed with day-old bread soaked in fresh cream, creating a rich and filling base. The secret ingredient was fresh eggs, beaten until frothy and folded into the mixture, making it surprisingly light despite its hearty nature. Cooked in cast-iron skillets seasoned by years of use, this dish developed a crispy, golden crust that sealed in all the juices. Some farm families basted the top with black coffee and butter, enhancing the deep, smoky flavors. The meal was prepared before dawn and left to warm on the back of a wood stove, ready for whenever the workers took a break. Today, Farmhand's favorite can be adapted using whole-grain bread and lean beef, offering a nutritious, protein-packed meal that carries the spirit of hardworking farm life into modern kitchens. Church gatherings weren't just about worship, they were also about food, and Sunday social beef squares were a highlight. Ground beef was pressed into large pans, scored into neat squares, and baked until perfectly golden. The trick was in the seasoning, often a combination of onion, garlic, and a touch of coffee from the church kitchen, which added depth to the dish. Once baked, these squares were arranged on platters with pickled vegetables, creating a visually appealing and delicious meal. Each cook had their own variation, and some became famous for their unique seasoning blends. The aroma of these beef squares baking would drift into the sanctuary, signaling the end of service and the beginning of fellowship. Today, this dish can be recreated with fresh, high-quality ingredients, making it perfect for potlucks and large family gatherings. It's a nostalgic nod to a time when shared meals were an essential part of community life. We're almost at the end, but stick around. You won't want to miss the last one. How do you make a delicious meal when key ingredients are scarce? During World War II, rationing required home cooks to be creative, leading to dishes like Victory Kitchen Surprise. Ground beef was stretched with oatmeal instead of breadcrumbs, a clever trick that made it last longer while keeping it moist. Instead of onions, which were often scarce, cooks used dried onion skins soaked and minced fine. The real ingenuity lay in the substitutions. Wild ramps replaced garlic, and dried celery leaves stood in for traditional spices. Tomato juice from Victory Gardens was added for extra depth, making the meat mixture flavorful despite limited ingredients. This dish embodied the wartime motto, "Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without." Though born from necessity, Victory Kitchen Surprise remained a beloved comfort food long after the war ended. Today, it can be modernized with fresh ingredients, while still honoring the resourcefulness and creativity that defined a generation. I hope you enjoyed this journey through time, rediscovering the forgotten flavors of the past. Which of these recipes surprised you the most? Have you tried any before? Let us know in the comments. If you love uncovering lost culinary history, be sure to subscribe for more delicious discoveries. Until next time.